Good evening, everyone. I'm going to give about 60 seconds before we get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, I think. All right, we ready, Sam? Yes, okay. And everybody can hear me and everybody can see my screen, right? Yes, okay, great. All right, good evening, everybody. If I sound especially excited, it's because we are winding down the NPU University school year, and I'm thrilled about that. This has been quite an undertaking and a lot bigger or a lot more than what it has grown quite a bit, even more so than I envisioned, which means it's a lot more work than we anticipated. So really, really excited that we have this time next month, we will be able to report that we've conducted 40 classes this year, 40 courses, even more classes, because some of these courses have multiple classes within them, such as the Code Enforcement Academy and Community Leadership Institute and a couple of others, I think. So yeah, we've gotten a lot done this year, and in the couple years that we have under our belts here, and I'm excited about that. So welcome to CP 1002, which is Civic Participation 1002, and this is our NPU 101 class. How does the NPU system work? I see we have a couple of veterans in the room. So I may pass the mic and let one of y'all teach this class. I'm kidding, but not really kidding. So I might call on one of you next time for sure to teach this. But in any case, really happy to be here with you all tonight talking about the neighborhood planning unit system, how it all works, and what you can do to participate or to increase your already participating participation. I am Leah LaRue, and I'm the Assistant Director of Neighborhood Planning in the City of Atlanta's Department of City Planning. I'm joined tonight by two of my colleagues, Samantha Nicole Terry, who is the Program Manager for Education and Training Initiatives.
Good evening, everyone. Glad you could join us despite this weather.
Yeah, the weather is weird, and I don't know if it's your computer or mine, Sam, but there's a bit of a lag. I'm hoping it's yours and not mine, because if I'm lagging, that's not going to be a fun evening tonight.
You're not lagging on my end.
I'm not? Okay. Well, that's a good thing, I guess. I'm also joined tonight by Daniel Vasquez, who is our Manager of Resources and Support.
Good evening, everybody.
Awesome. And I didn't see any of my other team members here, so if I missed anybody, did I miss anybody, y'all? No? That's it? Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I will probably ask here and there if there are any questions. So if you have questions, just raise your hand. And when we pause for questions, we'll take them then. Trying to move to the next slide. There we go. All right. So before we get started, those of you that have been in our classes before, you should know these by heart by now. We have just a few classroom rules, and they help us keep our classes orderly and productive and effective. Please keep your microphone muted at all times unless you have been called on to speak. This helps, of course, cut back on background noise and feedback and all the other things that you don't realize are so loud until you hear it through someone else's microphone. You can use reactions if you want to clap or give a thumbs up. I don't really expect that I'll be saying anything that will evoke such an emotion from you tonight, but if I do, sometimes I surprise myself. So if I do, feel free to use reactions to clap or give a thumbs up. If you have any questions during the Q&A or at the appropriate time, please just raise your hand to get in the queue, and I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. And our golden rule, number 4, all questions must be relevant to course content. And you get bonus points if your questions are also beneficial to the group. What that means, it's unfortunate. I didn't mean to say unfortunate. It's difficult to explain until it happens. But every once in a while, there are questions that you can just tell. And I know you all can tell because you all reach out to me after the fact. So you can just kind of tell that the question is either very politically motivated or it's a disgruntled kind of question, like I couldn't wait to get my hands on the city so I could ask this question. Those kinds of things, those are not really welcome in this class. If it's not relevant to what we're discussing here tonight, if it's not a question that's going to help you or help other neighbors and other Atlantans to strengthen the NPU or the NPU system, it's probably not the best time to ask that question. However, we don't shy away from questions. At least my team and I do not shy away from questions. And so if you have a question that you suspect is probably not relevant, but you really, really want an answer, you can email me or you can email Samantha or Daniel, and we will absolutely get your question in the hands of the right folks and get an answer for you. All right, so to raise your hand, if you haven't done it in a while, at the bottom of your screen, there is a button that says reactions. If you have not done this in a while, or you're, I was gonna say new to Zoom, I guess nobody's new to Zoom at this point, but if you haven't done it in a while, or you just don't do it often enough to remember, you can go ahead and practice if you'd like. But at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a button that says reactions. You'll click that. When you click it, a pop-up box will appear, and at the bottom of that box, you'll see a button that says raise hand, and you'll select raise hand. That is how you raise your hand. All right, any questions on that stuff? All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. We'll cover tonight the background, a little bit of background info. We'll talk a little bit about what the NPUs do, and we'll talk about some of our functions in our team: resources and support, education and training, and outreach and engagement. All right, so as many of you know, the NPU system was established in 1974 by Atlanta's first Black mayor, Mayor Maynard Jackson, the late Mayor Maynard Jackson. And the system is, this is actually a dated slide that needs to be a little bit updated, but I will say this, the system has certainly changed over time. When the NPU system was created, it was created so that residents could have, particularly those that had been historically disenfranchised, so that they would have a say in city government and in the way that the city spent funds or allocated its budget, and in the Comprehensive Development Plan, or the CDP. You will hear a lot of acronyms tonight. We are, my team and I are very sensitive, and we're trying to do much better. We have done much better over the past few years with either reducing our use of acronyms or explaining what those acronyms are. So if you hear me slip up tonight and say one that I didn't explain, please don't hesitate to drop a note in the chat, and someone from my team or one of your other class members will be happy to tell you what it stands for. But in any case, the CDP, or the Comprehensive Development Plan, was a major part of the reason that the NPU system was created. They were created so that residents could participate in the CDP, have a say-so in the planning of their neighborhoods, as well as the budget. But over time, that has changed quite significantly, and NPUs today do a whole lot more than they did in the 1970s when the system was created. So under NPU responsibilities, the neighborhood planning units review proposed rezonings and variances. They review applications for alcohol licenses and pawn shops, applications for special events, applications for TAD funding. There should be an asterisk there because it does depend on the TAD or the tax allocation district. Amendments to the city's zoning ordinance and comprehensive development plan, or the CDP, and fee changes. Per the Code of Ordinances, the NPU's purpose is to provide input into the comprehensive development plan, to receive information concerning the operation of city government, to make recommendations for the formulation of the city's budget, and NPUs may make recommendations on any matter affecting livability. And the reference there is section 6-3011 and section 6-3012 of Article B of the city's Code of Ordinances. Our 2022 program goals, and if you've been around for a while, you have probably noted that our goals have not changed much since 2019. We changed one of them out, but our goals have been pretty consistent since 2019 because they align with the department's goals and because we have not achieved them yet. So we're going to keep these goals until we achieve them and can replace them with other goals. But we promote equity by working to ensure that residents of Atlanta are aware of and engaged in the NPU system, informed and empowered to navigate the system, and can navigate it with ease. And I will tell you, we know that we have a long way to go, which is why we still have the same goals in 2022 that we had last year in 2021. We have a way to go, and we acknowledge that, and we recognize that. We want for everyone who lives in Atlanta to know what NPU stands for, to know what an NPU is, to know the importance, to understand why they should engage and why they should be a part of the NPU system. And we won't rest until we accomplish that, until we increase awareness across the city, until we improve our processes, which is the foundation of the work that we do, until we promote and achieve equity. We're going to keep working at this until we get that done, and until we educate everyone in Atlanta and all of our stakeholders on what the NPU system is and how it works. This slide is borrowed from our friends at the Center for Civic Innovation. It gives a nice visual of what the NPU system is, or what we mean when we refer to the NPU system. I actually prefer to read this from right to left instead of left to right, but it consists of residents, of course, and of course, the NPU is made up of residents, of property owners, of business and organizational representatives. It also includes or represents neighborhood, civic, business, and homeowners associations. It is connected, the NPU or NPUs, the system is also connected with base organizations. Bases stand for boards, authorities, commissions, etc. And of course, it is connected to the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board, which is the base that includes one representative of each NPU, the Board of Zoning Adjustment, the License Review Board, and the Zoning Review Board. Of course, it is also connected to the City of Atlanta, including all 3 branches, and the state of Georgia, and all 3 branches. The council members, I'm sorry, this slide looks a little different on my screen than what it looked like a second ago. Apologies. The council members are part, I'm sorry, the recommendations from the NPUs are routed to the council members in different ways. Sometimes they are direct recommendations that go directly to a council member, depending on what the recommendation is. And other times it just goes through city council as a result of coming out of the zoning review board. But our council members here, as you know, the city of Atlanta has 15 council members, 12 district council members, 3 council members at large, and 1 council president. Oh, there we go. All right, and our team this is the support team for the NPU system. We are a small group of very passionate and committed folks who love our work. We have Kip Dunlap, who is our resources and support coordinator. Nicole Jenkins is a project manager over operations and special projects, also in the resources and support team. And Daniel Vasquez is the resources and support manager. Samantha is the program manager for education and training initiatives. And Tony is the program manager for outreach and engagement. All right, so we'll talk now a little bit about what the NPUs do. Before I move on, are there any questions on background? I don't see any hands. Oh, I do see a hand. Mr. Peterson?
Yes, so you said that NPUs, as far as the membership, are the citizens, correct?
I actually didn't get to that part yet, but
Okay, I thought that's what you said when you were saying, maybe I was thinking ahead of you. I
you might have
apologize,
been-
I'll wait.
No, you may have been referring to the slide where I talked about the residents. Is that the one you're talking about?
Right, the residents and being members of the, or that's who it was, I guess, made for, were residents.
Yes, correct. Well, that's partly correct. And okay, hold on to that question. Hold on
Okay,
to
no problem.
any other questions?
There's a question in the chat from Catherine Stanfield. The slide that showed everything from city council to NPUs, which are full-time positions and which are volunteers.
Okay, I don't want to take questions from the chat if you don't mind, because I'm not going to be able to go back and forth. But hold on, since you read that one, let me just go back to it.
Yeah, everyone going forward, if you can raise your hand, it'd be really great. It's kind of hard to scroll through the chat.
Yeah, I don't like trying to figure that out. Is this the slide that Ms. Catherine is referring to?
Yes, that's the slide.
Okay, you're asking how many of these are, what was the question again?
Which one are volunteers? And which one are like full-time jobs?
Just about everything on the right side of the screen are all volunteers. Actually, bases, those are volunteer roles. The NPUs roles are volunteer roles. The neighborhood, civic, business, and homeowner associations are 99.9% volunteer roles. And of course, the members of NPUs, the residents and such, are all volunteers as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, ma'am, you're welcome. All righty. Okay, so I think this might touch on your question, Mr. Matthew. I forgot the last name that fast, Mr. Matthew. All right, so section 6-3012 of the Code of Ordinances. Somebody's mic, Sam, please. Thanks. All right, so it reads, the neighborhood planning unit may recommend an action, a policy, or a comprehensive plan to the city and to any city agency on any matter affecting the livability of the neighborhood, including but not limited to land use, zoning, housing, community facilities, human resources, social and recreational programs, traffic and transportation, environmental quality, open space and parks, assist city agencies in determining priority needs for the neighborhood, review items for inclusion in the city budget, and make recommendations relating to budget items for neighborhood improvement, and advise the Department of City Planning on the preparation of the 15 and 5-year comprehensive development plans. That's not the section I thought it was, Mr. Matthew, but it's coming, one second. And the reason this is important is that this shows you exactly what the NPU was created to do. This is what the NPU's authority is. Its authority is to make recommendations on any matter that affects the livability of the neighborhood. Keep in mind, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit more later on, but I would say not a week goes by that I don't hear from someone in the city some sort of disgruntled position around not being taken seriously by the city, or not really understanding why we volunteer so much time and put so much of our energy and our effort into this work if the city is going to do what it wants to do anyway. The city never listens to our decisions anyway. Well, what the code gives you, and by the way, this is the code of ordinances. So this is the law that that our team adheres to, that our department adheres to. This is our law. It makes clear that NPUs make recommendations. These are not binding decisions in any way. These are recommendations that the NPUs make to the city of Atlanta, sometimes to the mayor's office, sometimes to the Atlanta City Council, and sometimes to other departments, to city departments. But these are recommendations that NPUs make, not decisions. All right, so NPUs, oh, I think we covered this already, that they review rezonings and variances. Yeah, we covered this already. Apologies. All right, so this is what the process looks like. When an NPU submits an application, the application is submitted, I'm sorry, I said an NPU, that's not what I meant. When an applicant submits an application, the application is submitted to the appropriate department. It could be the Atlanta Police Department, it could be the Mayor's Office of Special Events, it could be the Department of City Planning's Office of Zoning and Development. But once those applications are submitted, they are then processed by the appropriate departmental staff for review. Then it is routed to the NPU staff, that's our team. We then work our magic and then route it to the NPU. The NPU then does its work. And I believe I have a slide in here that talks a little bit about what that work looks like. After we get the recommendation back from the NPU, it is then reviewed by the appropriate base, which again is a board, authority, commission, etc., or the appropriate office. And then it goes to the Atlanta City Council or the mayor's office. And then the application is approved or denied. This is a very, very basic kind of overview. There are different nuances depending on the application type, but overall, this is what happens. And this is what it looks like on the NPU side. How do they review these applications? How do they arrive at their recommendations? What exactly do they do? Well, most NPUs, and keep in mind, there are 25 different NPUs, 25 NPUs. The 25 NPUs all function very differently. They all have different bylaws, and the bylaws are what determine how the NPU operates. The bylaws and the code of ordinances determine how the NPUs operate. So they don't all do the same thing. And I think that's important to note because this slide that you see in front of you it's a general overview, but it does vary depending on the NPU. In general, most NPUs will seek neighborhood weigh-in. So they will refer, when they get an application from my office, they will then refer that application or forward that application over to the neighborhood that is impacted by whatever the application might be. They will seek neighborhood weigh-in. They will refer it to the appropriate NPU committee, if there is one. And then those committees will do, committees will do research. They may, I've seen it all. They may do online research. They may request records from the city. I've seen police records. They may request police records. They may request information on the property. They may drive out to the property and take pictures or talk to neighbors. I've seen all sorts of research, and I'm pointing that out because it is a lot of work that these NPU volunteers put into these roles that they fill in the NPU. In some cases, there might be information sessions, special meetings even, and then there may be debate depending on what the matter is, whether it is controversial or contentious, or maybe it's just different. It's a different kind of project that promotes or that prompts debate because it hasn't been done before, because it hasn't been done over here before, or because it's unfamiliar to us. It could prompt debate for those reasons. And then they will make an official recommendation. What those recommendations generally look like, and we do have some thoughts internally. We've had a lot of discussion in recent months and maybe a year or so about what these recommendations look like and the value they actually hold. I'm very much interested in enhancing the value that these NPU recommendations have with the city of Atlanta. And so we've had some conversations around that and definitely looking to open up for discussion on how we can strengthen these recommendations and add a little bit of weight to them. But in any case, typically NPUs will make a recommendation via motion. Someone will make a motion to support this application, or a motion to withhold support from an application or deny support. And then they will vote, and that vote becomes the recommendation. The Atlanta Planning Advisory Board, as I mentioned, is one representative of each NPU that forms this board. It includes 25 voting members. The chair of each NPU is a member or his or her designee. They elect a president or presiding officer from the voting membership of the board. They also prepare their own bylaws, and they serve as an advisory board to the city on citywide problems, issues, goals, and objectives relative to the preparation and updating of the CDP. They also advise the city on matters relating to citizen organizations and participation in the planning process. And they perform other duties as assigned by the mayor or the council, or other functions required by federal law relative to citizen participation. All right, a few important details, and I guess I didn't have the code on this, but I can pull it up, Mr. Matthew, in just a moment. But a few important details. Members of the NPU include anyone over the age of 18 who lives in the city of Atlanta. Property owners, business owners, and organizations can appoint a representative member. Every neighborhood within the city limits is in one of the 25 NPUs. When people tell me that they live in Atlanta, but they don't live in an NPU, my response is, you don't live in Atlanta. If you live in Atlanta, you do live in an NPU. Most NPUs meet every month, and a city planner attends each NPU's meeting to provide technical support on zoning and planning matters. NPU officers are public servants. They are volunteers, and they spend an average of 4 to 6 hours a week conducting city business. That is a very conservative average for some. There are some who spend a little less than that, and some who spend a lot more than that conducting the city's business. And as I mentioned, no two NPUs are alike. They do create their own bylaws. They have their own culture for sure, and their own agendas. Sam, can you mute that mic, please? I can't do it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, governance, and then we'll take a couple of questions after. I think this is the last slide in this section, I think. So one of the questions that I get quite often is, as a matter of fact, just this evening, I got an email asking this question, but I get this question rather often. Who's in charge of the NPU? Like, who do we go to when the NPU is not acting right, or when something is wrong or unjust? What are we supposed to do? And we often get folks that come to me wanting help with a sticky situation at an NPU, and then feeling disgruntled or ignored or not taken seriously because I can't help them in the way that they would like for me to help, or just can't resolve it in the way that people want some of these matters to be resolved. So let me just say this. There are 4 means of governance for NPUs, and they are on the screen in front of you. You will notice that you do not see the Department of City Planning or LEA or NPU team or anything like that, or even Mayor Dickens or anything else. You see 4 squares, rectangles. Members, bylaws, code of ordinances, that's Article B, and code of ethics for NPU officers. These are the 4 means of governance for NPUs. The code says that NPUs are accountable to their members or to the residents. The code also gives NPUs the opportunity to create their own bylaws. And in fact, they are required to approve bylaws annually. NPUs must vote on bylaws every year. And those votes, if you're taking notes, please jot this down. Those votes must be open to the entire public. Anyone who lives in that particular NPU, whatever NPU it is, if you live there, you have the right by code to vote on bylaws, even if you have never, ever attended an NPU meeting before in your life. Even if you've missed all of them this year, even if you don't even really know what an NPU is, but somebody told you that you should participate and you just happen to show up this one night and they're voting on bylaws and they tell you you can't vote on anything because you haven't attended 3 meetings. That may be true depending on their bylaws, but when it comes to bylaws, you can vote regardless, whether you've never been there or you have. I took a minute with that one because I want to make sure that that's clear, because every year we have questions/issues around bylaws. Thirdly, the Code of Ordinances governs the NPUs. Typically, the only way we will really get involved in conflict at the NPU level is if the Code of Ordinances is being violated, or if the Code of Ethics for NPU officers is being violated. Those 2 are law. It's code and it's enforceable because it's law. So those things we can kind of, we can assist with, but anything else, and it's just important to note that regardless, the code gives you as members the authority over your NPU. You have authority over your NPU as a member. You have the right to make motions, to address issues. You have the right to report problems with leadership to the members or to the executive board, according to whatever your bylaws say and your rule of order says. I did point out that meetings are required to be open to the public. I think maybe I didn't point that out, but meetings are required to be open to the public. And they're usually held on the same day of every month, like 3rd Thursday, 2nd Tuesday, 4th Wednesday, etc. City departmental representatives give brief updates and reports at each of these meetings. So the Atlanta Police Department, AFRD, that's Atlanta Fire and Rescue, Atlanta Police Department Code Enforcement Unit, Atlanta 311, the City Solicitor's Office, the Department of Public Works, the Department of Watershed Management, other agencies such as APS or Atlanta Public Schools, MARTA. I hope y'all know what MARTA means because I can't even think of it right now. Metropolitan Area Rapid Transit Authority, I think. MARTA, Fulton County, and other organizations and community partners often also make presentations as well. I will point out, for the sake of transparency, that not each of these departments attend every NPU meeting. During the pandemic, prior to the pandemic, we had a couple of minor issues with some departments not attending some meetings, but during the pandemic, it got pretty bad with several departments not attending several NPU meetings. We're working on that, and the departments are working on that. The mayor's office is working on that as well, and we're all paying attention and trying to do what we can to fix that. Meeting and contact information. This is not. Okay, sorry. All right, so ways to engage. You can follow development in your neighborhood by using the NPU dashboard, which I'll show you that in just a moment. You can also follow your NPU on social media. You can follow our page, NPU Atlanta, on social media as well. You can subscribe to your own NPU's email list and to our distribution list as well. We, whenever there is an NPU meeting, we send out a notification to anyone who is subscribed to our distribution list. You can also attend city council and council committee meetings, and of course, participate in your neighborhood association, your business association, and or your NPU. And of course, you can volunteer in your NPU. Many NPUs have lots of volunteer opportunities, so you can certainly look into that as well. So that is the end of that section. And if there are any questions on what the NPUs do, I'm happy to take those questions. Please do raise your hand. All right, Nichelle Bell.
Yes, I wanted to have you explain, you talked about the research that goes on for the NPU for voting matters. And I just want to clarify that the matter that is being voted on has been presented to the NPU for the vote, and that if it's not presented, is it still voted on?
I'm not positive that I understand the question.
Well, I wanted to find out whether or not the presentation of the matter is part of the process of voting. I didn't hear that when you were explaining that.
So,
like if there's a variance and they've gotten the NPU has gotten notification of the variance. What is how it is part of the voting of that variance, the presentation that the applicant makes to the NPU?
it might be. It depends on the NPU though.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know, if it's that way for all of the NPUs, or if there are certain NPUs that don't rely on the presentation for voting matters.
I think most, if not all, certainly rely on a presentation of some sort. I think the question is the venue and the means. Sometimes that presentation might be at an NPU meeting, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes the presentation is to the neighborhood group or to the committee, a committee of the NPU, and it's not presented at the regularly NPU meeting. It just depends on the NPU. But typically there is, more often than not, there is a presentation. There doesn't have to be. And I think that except where the code requires a presentation, in some cases, the code actually spells out that the applicant must attend the meeting and receive questions on the application.
Okay.
But unless it's spelled out there, it just depends on the NPU.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Robin Schlinger.
Yes, I have a couple of questions related to the fact that you stated that NPUs must abide by federal, state, and local laws. I belong to NPUE, which requires the only people who are voting members are members of civic associations or neighborhood associations, and to be able to join, you have to be able to apply. And to apply right now, according to the new bylaws, they require that new organizations belong for 3 years and disclose personally identifiable and confidential information that we would have to disclose without permission of the people who join, including names, addresses, telephone numbers, email addresses of members of the organization to the NPU in order to be able to join. And this does not seem legal to me, is it?
I'm not a lawyer.
I'm not either, but that's my first question on it. And does that comply? And the next question is that they require you to be in good standing with the Secretary of State as a nonprofit. And I become aware that some of these civic organizations may or may not be that who are currently members. Is that something that seems correct?
I don't know. I suggest that you either give me a call or send me an email separately so I can dig into that. It's definitely not the type of question that I would answer on the fly without having a lot more information.
Okay, I will go ahead and send you that then.
Okay, I'll ask someone from my team if y'all don't mind dropping my email address and phone number in the chat, please.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Walker. Hi, Ms. Walker.
Hello, everyone, and hello, Mr. Wu. My question is about the code of ethics for the NPU officers. Is there a code for that? And which officers does this apply to? Or does it, because not all NPUs have the same officers. So which officers does the code of ethics pertain to?
I believe it applies to all. Give me 1 second. I'm going to actually link it in the chat. I believe it applies to all the officers of, here it is. Yeah, it says ethical guidelines for neighborhood planning unit officers. So that would be the way we interpret that is anybody who's an officer is bound by that section of the code.
All right, thank you.
I just dropped it in the chat for you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any, oh, I did see some other hands. Mr. Peterson, and Sam, can you please make me a a co-host or whatever it's called?
Hello again, thank you. So to be part of an NPUE or NPU period, I know Robin just mentioned NPUE, should you have to pay to belong or participate in an NPU and to receive the information of the applications?
Wait, I'm sorry, do you have to pay to be a part of the NPU? The answer is no.
Right, and to receive the information from the city that the city shares with the NPU as far as applications go?
No.
No? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Dita? Petros. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Please
It's
correct.
Petrus, and thank you, Ms. LaRue. Yeah, my question, I'm a member of NPUE also. And I live in Midtown, and we're besieged by bar noise at 3 o'clock in the morning, every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we seemingly have no input through our NPU into bar licenses. Nobody ever asks us for input. 2 or 3 people on the NPU board make those decisions. How do we get more input into who gets licenses in our neighborhoods that are disturbing our peace 4 nights out of 7?
That's a lot of, that's a weighted question. So I will say this much. One is, the first thing I'll say is this. Every person in this room, it sounds like NPUE decided to show up tonight, I guess, and get some, I don't know, but let me just make something really.
We got a lot of problems.
Understood, but let me just say this. If NPUE members would like to have a meeting with me, I do not ever decline an opportunity to meet with residents. I don't want to take this class and turn it into a fixed NPUE session, but I'm happy to have a conversation with y'all offline. We start every class off the same, which is talking about those 4 rules, especially the golden rule, because we don't like to hold everybody up focusing on one thing that doesn't apply to anybody else but you all. But let me just say this. The code is very clear in stating who the NPU is accountable to. The NPU is accountable to you, the members, not to me in planning. It's accountable to you. Your department, I'm sorry, your NPU leadership is accountable to you. Those of you that are members of that NPU are those who the leadership is accountable to. Those to whom the leadership is accountable. So I think that's really important. I think that it's so unfortunate, Sam, we actually need to do this class. Just please make a note. We got to do this class earlier in the year. And I feel like I've said that a few times before. I don't like having this class after the bylaws process is over, because my response to almost everything that's going to come from you all is going to be change your bylaws. If you don't like the way your NPU operates, change your bylaws. And yes, you do have the power to do that. Yes, you do have the authority or the ability to change your bylaws. Unfortunately, you got to wait a few months before we get started with that process again, in most cases. But yeah, that's a bylaws issue. If you don't like the way your NPU operates, change the bylaws.
The class is March 9th next year.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, so was that the answer to your question, Miss? I don't even remember.
Not really, because very often we have no ability to even speak at our meetings. So that it helps, Miss LaRue, but it doesn't.
Bylaws meeting?
Yeah, no, in the meetings in general.
Yeah, but those rules, the rules that govern your meetings in general, stem from your bylaws. So you have to fix your bylaws. If there is something in your meeting management that you feel disenfranchises residents, the way to address that is in your bylaws.
Well, we have to wait till next year.
I don't know that for sure because I don't have your bylaws in front of me, honestly, but I can take a look. There are some NPUs that don't require waiting until whenever to make amendments to bylaws.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And same thing I said to your neighbor, y'all can feel free to call me. I'm happy to have a meeting separately to discuss the NPUE issue. Mr. Nicholson?
Okay. Yeah, Ms. LaRue, thank you for hosting this meeting. And I'm from NPUE, so if my question is too pointed, just say, first of all, I think you're offering to meet with some of us separately on some of the issues we're experiencing. I think probably is a very good idea. Now, if my question is too specific to that, tell me and we can hold that. But we're talking bylaws, and I'm wondering the difference between bylaws and policies. We seem to have voted on bylaws and policies, and I don't know if this is getting too legal or too specific, but the policies, they almost seem like they're part of the bylaws. But how do those get changed? And if that's too specific, again, we can put that off.
So there are other NPUs that have policies as well, not just E. So that could be helpful to other folks. How the policies are changed is going to be spelled out either in the policies or in the bylaws. So I can't answer how the policies would be changed for that NPU. That would be spelled out in the NPU's policies or in the NPU's bylaws.
Okay, yeah. Well, that would make sense. Unfortunately, the policies were posted less than a day before our voting, so we didn't have a whole lot of chance to look at those. But nonetheless, we'll handle that. I understand what you're saying. And actually, it's probably a good thing we're looking this far ahead for the bylaws for next year, because it takes a while to work those through. So thank you. Appreciate your answer.
Yes, sir. Mr. Hom, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Thank you very much, Ms. LaRue. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you for your time today. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I also live in NPUE, and I just have a quick 2 questions. The code of ordinance can be found online somewhere. Is that right? Someone going to post where that is?
Yes, I'll post it for you.
Thank you. And then if there are issues with the code of ordinance, I recall you talking about the 4 boxes, but who do we go to if there are issues that we find in the code of ordinance?
Issues in the code of ordinances, meaning there's
like if NPU isn't adhering to, the ordinance. Some of the
that definitely starts with my office. If if an NPU is violating code, you should let me know about that. And I can tell you 9 times out of 10, I've been in this job almost 4 years now. In all but one case, whenever that happens, all it takes is a call from me to say, hey, did y'all know that the code says ABC and you're actually doing XYZ? And they usually fix it right away. Nobody wants, these are volunteers, they do, especially in E. I will say this, E has the heaviest workload of every NPU in the city, period. There is no NPU that has, I'm going to double check that as a matter of fact, but I'm almost certain, and I can show you that data source as well, but I'm almost certain NPU E has the highest workload. That being the case, most NPUs, E included, are not looking to cause drama with the city of Atlanta or get into trouble with the city of Atlanta. It's usually for any NPU. I get calls all the time with people filing a complaint about their chairperson or their this person or that person. 9 times out of 10, people mean well, and they either didn't know or they thought that they were doing what was right for the community or right for the organization, for the NPU. So yeah, let me know first, and we'll see if a nudge helps. And if a nudge doesn't help, then we can talk about next steps.
Okay, this has been very enlightening because I'm new to NPU. So it's great to hear about all this. One last question. E is probably so busy because we have so many cranes in our neighborhood, right in Midtown, with new infrastructure and et cetera. So my concern is that as more high rises are going up on every corner where I live, I'm just wondering, is there any transparency to the applications that are coming through? And can I, as a resident, have access to those applications on liquor licenses or zoning, et cetera, going forward?
Sorry, I thought your question was going to be a little longer, so I put a piece
Oh,
of.
no, that's it. That's it. I'm trying to keep it short.
I'm sorry about that. All applications are open to the public or publicly accessible, I guess is the better way to put that. And they're all on the agendas, and we'll get to that in just a moment.
Okay,
This next part of the class, we'll get to that, but they're all publicly accessible.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Tanisha Green.
Good evening. Thank you for this presentation. I am not from NPUE. But my question for you is, I'm happy with our officers, but I'm wondering, are there term limits for officers, or does that depend on the NPU?
It depends on the NPU. It's
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for that quick and easy question too. It does depend on the NPU. It depends on what the bylaws say. There are some that have no term limits at all. There are some that have 3 years. I think I've seen 2 years. I've seen 4 years for sure. It just depends on the NPU. All right. I don't see any other questions. So I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so our resources and support group is a small team of 3. That's Daniel, Nicole, and Kip. And they are responsible for generating meeting agendas, public notices, routing recommendations. They also help coordinate virtual meetings and our hybrid meetings pilot program. They are also responsible for coordinating financial disclosures, providing support to the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board. They also manage our planner assignments, our NPU dashboard, our language access program, which is launching in 2023, our open records request process, and our annual neighborhood directory, and plenty of other stuff that's not listed here. We just didn't have space to list everything that our resources and support team does. This is the dashboard that we talked about. And as a matter of fact, I am going to stop sharing for just a second, and I'm going to drop a link in the chat for the dashboard. And I would love for y'all to, if you haven't, I know it looks like we've got some new folks in the room or folks that haven't been around forever. So if the dashboard is unfamiliar to you, or if you haven't used it before or seen it before, you definitely should want to click on that, play around with it a little bit, but it does link you to every application that your NPU or a neighboring NPU perhaps, or any place in the city. If there is an application that an NPU has voted on, that application will be found on the dashboard. You can also find some other important information, including attendance info. If you're looking for attendance info, if you are interested in reading the application itself is linked in the dashboard. You can read the entire application. You can find applicant information. You'll find the outcome of the NPU's vote. And this year, we enhanced the dashboard even further by adding what we call the life cycle, Daniel? Life cycle, thank you. The life cycle of the application. And we actually follow it through its disposition. So once the NPU makes a recommendation and it then goes to, for example, the zoning review board will vote to make their own recommendation, and then it goes to the Atlanta City Council. We actually record the zoning review board's recommendation and the Atlanta City Council's recommendation, so that you'll see what your recommendation was, what the board's recommendation was, and what the city's final recommendation or final decision was. All of that can be found on the dashboard. Okay, so. All right, and this is a screenshot of it, so you can see, you can also see, you know, the number of applications that each NPU has. This is an older screenshot. I think this is from June or July, maybe, but you'll see here that even then NPUE had the greatest number of applications. I mean, there's just a lot. It's Midtown, so there's a lot that happens over there for sure. In any case, if you look towards your right, you'll see a little pop-up box. Those dots in the map, if you click on any one of those dots, you'll get a pop-up box and it will show you the application number, the application type, the month that the NPU voted on the application, what the NPU's recommendation was, what the zoning review board's recommendation was, or the BZA, what their decision was, or the alcohol, the license review board as well. All of those will be found here. Our language access for non-English speakers. This is a program that we had hoped to launch in 2022, but looks like we'll be launching it in 2023 because some of our foundational work took a little bit longer than we anticipated. We are interested, however, in bridging the language gap. We believe that that will give non-English speakers the opportunity to participate in the development of their neighborhoods. Additionally, let me also add, this may not be of much interest to those of you that are on this call, but we did learn, I learned very early on that some of our public facing materials, including meeting agendas, are written in tech speak, and they are in many cases very technical. And if you don't have a lot of experience or degree or expertise in planning, you may not exactly understand much of what is said on these agendas. And I'm not really thrilled about, I'm not comfortable with that. I've been saying that since 2019, but we're actually making having some conversations around not just language access for non-English speakers, but also access for people who do speak English, but they don't speak planner speak. So we want to make sure that we're bridging the language gap, you know, all of the gaps, not just the gap for non-English speakers, but also the gap for regular people who just want to participate in the community and may not know what a R4A is, or what a setback is, or the floodplain and all the other things that many people don't quite understand. All right, so that's the end of resources and support. Any questions on resources and support? Okay, I see questions. Let me stop sharing so I can see. Mr. Bell.
You made a comment about open records. When you do an open records with something related to NPUs, does it go to the planning open records email and then it just forwarded to y'all, or is there, I have not seen on the transparency website a separate email for open records for related to NPUs?
Most people just send it directly to us, but if you send it to Open Records Planning, they'll send it to us.
Okay.
Yeah, either way, we'll get it. You can send it to Open
I mean,
Records.
is there a generic email for y'all for open records, so that if somebody is not, you know, is out sick or vacation or whatever, that it gets there, or is do the planning the best for that?
Yeah, planning is the better bet for that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Hom?
Sorry, just another quick question, Ms. LaRue. You had mentioned on a dashboard that the link is, you can see all the applications that have been voted on. Is there a way to see the applications before they're voted on there, or is that available as well?
Yes, it's available, not there, but I can drop a link to that page as well.
Okay, thank you.
we have, so we publish. Okay, here we go. Okay, I just dropped that link in the chat as well. We publish 7 days before every NPU meeting. We publish the final agenda, and that agenda has all of, can y'all hear me clearly? I'm getting a notice. Okay, it says low system resources. 7 days before the NPU meeting, we post the agenda, we publish it on our website, we send it out to our distribution list. We also post it on Nextdoor, and that might be it, maybe. I think that's about it. But yeah, we put it as far and wide as we possibly can. The meeting agenda has links to all of the applications in it. Ms. Amati, Sandra Amati.
Hello.
Hi.
My question is regarding, I know you mentioned that applications, you can track their progress through to when the city council provides their decision, but I'm curious if after the NPU provides their formal recommendation, does any direct feedback go to them regarding whether or not their recommendation is taken into account?
I like the way you think, Miss Amati.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that's hard to answer because in some cases that's a yes. In most cases, it's a no. But what we encourage is because everybody needs just one more thing to do, what we encourage people to do is to actually follow the board of purview. So if you have a rezoning application and it really was near and dear to you, or you were just really curious about this one or interested, the meeting agenda also will show you the hearing date for that particular application. So I encourage people to attend the hearing so that they can see what the board is discussing. Because for me, it's less helpful for me to know what their decision was and more helpful for me to watch them deliberate, for me to watch them ask the applicant questions, listen to the applicant's answers, watch their follow-up questions. Seeing all of that, I always encourage, and any of the chairs that are here can attest to this, I always encourage NPU chairs to attend the LRB meetings because there's so many concerns that people have about the License Review Board. And for those that don't know, that is the board that weighs in on or reviews alcohol licenses. And residents have lots of issues around or stemming from alcohol licenses. And I always tell them, attend the LRB meeting so you can watch how they're deliberating over these applications. So you can see the questions that they're asking the applicants, so you can hear their debate and hear their discussion and kind of understand the logic and how it all works. But yeah, that's a long answer, but the answer is no, they don't usually get back to the NPUs. Every once in a while they do, depending on the council member, depending on the application itself. But the best way to find that out is to actually go to the hearing where the matter is being discussed.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Sean Mosley.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to ask real quick if you were, as you were mentioning, the ability to not only making things accessible as far as like the other languages, non-English languages, but also for English. Are you familiar with plainlanguage.gov and that framework?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's entirely fine. I work in tech and do design and all of that stuff. And so like it sounds very familiar, and I wanted to share that resource with the resource team to check out plainlanguage.gov, which helps to make things in common plain language speaks versus using any
I love that.
complex jargon. So just wanted to share that.
I'm looking at it right now, and I will definitely review that. And Daniel, I'll ask you to review it as well, if you don't mind. Thank you. That was helpful, Mr. Mosley. Thank you very much. Ms. Walker?
Yes, thank you. My question is also about the language access. We have a couple of members, residents that are blind, will there be some kind of access for them?
What kind, you mean like putting the agendas in Braille? Is that what you mean?
Possibly. We did get a question from the one of the blind members about information. We didn't know, but I didn't know. I don't know what information we provided him, but they are questioning about getting information. I was just wondering.
So I would probably ask for you to refer that person to me or to Daniel separately, because the right now answer is that I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
I think there are tons and tons of different software add-on things that read the screen to you out loud. I know I have it on my laptop and I use it sometimes myself, but there are different things that are that you can use to read things out loud, to read what's on your computer out loud. So I don't know if there are other resources available to those that are visually challenged or visually impaired. I'm not sure.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And Mr. Bell.
Piggybacking, that's not my question, but piggybacking on the thing on the visually impaired, a lot of the stuff that Atlanta posts as far as meeting announcements are PDFs that are not, they're not native PDFs where it's being created through the program. They're scans to where it's a picture. And so the text to speech does not work on those things because it sees the PDF as a picture. So is there a way that, like, especially for the NPUs, and there really needs to be citywide, but at least for the NPUs, that when there's a meeting notice, that there is something put out in text and not a picture of something that was typed up and printed out and scanned?
So our stuff is not what you're describing. That may be.
That's probably city council. City council does that a lot, to where those who are visually impaired cannot use text to speech.
Yeah, if you email something to me, I can pass that along to my colleagues in council, and then we can also send a note to the folks in the language access. The mayor's office has some language access folks as well. We can send something to them because it should be a citywide. To your point, I think it would be helpful if there were a citywide standard.
Then my question is, you had mentioned the posting of notices. I've had issue where an agenda has had something left off, and then at the very beginning of the meeting, they add on that they're going to review a liquor license for a couple of businesses that were inadvertently left off. So then a neighbor or anybody who may have had otherwise have attended because they knew that was the topic of discussion, did not, because it was not on the agenda. So how is that addressed? And how do you get that addressed so that, stuff is not slipping in under the radar because it, whether, inadvertently or not, it was not on the agenda. And at the last second before the meeting starts, they amend the agenda.
This is a bonus question for the whole class. First person to answer it correctly. First person to raise your hand with the correct answer will get a prize. We'll mail you something nice. To whom is the NPU accountable? Mr. Bell, you raised your hand first, but you're the one that's asking the question.
Well, the people, but then the problem is like when I had an issue and I brought it up at that time, they said, well, our bylaws allow us to amend the
issue and not bring it up. So this I will refer y'all to another class we have. And thank you, Ms. Stanley, Ms. Schlinger, and Ms. Moore, and Mr. Blassingame. I'm going to assume that all of you had the correct answer. but Mr. Bell's hand was up first. But seriously, we have I think 2 classes for 2023, but we had 4 in 2020, 4 in 2021, and 4 in 2022. These are classes on parliamentary procedure. Too often I see people saying, I tried to tell them about this, or I talked to them about that, or I made a mention of it. A mention is not a motion. Ooh, that's a good word. I need to put that on a t-shirt. A mention is not a motion. You have to make a motion, and that motion needs to be seconded. If something is happening at your NPU that does not have your support, your first step needs to be figuring out if it has everybody else's support, or if there's anyone else that agrees with you. If before an agenda is adopted at the beginning of the meeting, there is usually a presiding officer that says, is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Someone may then say, Madam or Mr. Chair, I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda, or I'd like to amend the agenda to include this alcohol license at 123 Main Street. It's at that moment. Okay, hold on, NPUE folks, because your NPUE is different. And this ain't the NPUE class, okay? Hold on, y'all. But seriously, when you make that motion, when they make that motion at the beginning of the, not class, at the beginning of the meeting to adopt the agenda, that's when you say, well, actually before the motion is even made, but you can then vote, you can, I'm sorry, shucks, what is it? Discuss. So discussion on the motion. After the motion is made and seconded, the floor has to be open for discussion. If they are ready to vote without discussion, you can then say, point of order, we need to have discussion on the motion. And then you say, I am not comfortable adding this item to the agenda because there are members who may care about this particular address and they didn't know it was going to be on an agenda tonight. They're not here. Maybe they would be here if they knew it was going to be on the agenda. So I'm not comfortable with that. And hopefully you get enough, you make a strong enough case that your other members agree with you and will vote not to amend the agenda. But that's the power in the people. That's not the power, that power doesn't belong to the city and it doesn't belong to the NPU chairperson. It belongs to the people. It's up to all of you to decide what your meeting agenda looks like. If you say, this isn't right, we shouldn't be adding this, and there are 40 people who disagree with you, that's the democratic process. You got outvoted. And whether it's fair or not fair, you got outvoted and it stays on the agenda. But if, of course, you make a strong case and they're like, yeah, he's actually right, we shouldn't have this on the agenda if people didn't know, then they vote along with you and it gets pulled from the agenda or it doesn't get added to the agenda. But that's how that works.
So the board, the NPU board cannot just vote on it. It has to be voted on by the membership. Because what happened with the issue that I had is I did object to it, and I may have not objected the right way. But it was the board who voted on it, not the entire, committee or NPU. So they got well, when they decided to, it was the officers, let me rephrase that. It was the officers who voted to adopt the minutes, not the entire, the attendees.
What NPU are you referring to, Mr. Bell?
This one was E.
Okay, so let's, okay, raise your hand if you're from NPUE. All of you, raise your hand. Y'all ain't gonna stress me out tonight. This is the last night before my vacation. Y'all not doing this to me.
Excuse me. I just want to say I'm not for NPU. I'm not for NPU.
It was NPUM. I'm in two different. Well, I work in one NPU and I'm live in another. It was NPUM that one happened.
Okay, and I heard you, Mr. Your hand went down so fast that I didn't get to see your name, but I did hear you. He said, "Do not affiliate with me with NPUE." I'm not with NPUE. That was funny. Okay, so listen, y'all. Let me take a moment to explain something that I don't think is in our presentation, but it's relevant for sure. And I do want, Mr. Irvin. Okay, I got you, Mr. Irvin. It is relevant, and it's useful and informative. The code, as a matter of fact, how about this? How about I pull up the code so y'all can see it? All right, and the font might be a little bit small. If it is, I'll try to blow it up a little. So this part right here speaks to Mr. Matthews' earlier question. I don't remember Mr. Matthews' last name. I'm so sorry. But you were asking about who a member is. Section 6-3012, part 3 says a resident shall mean, this is the definition, resident shall mean any person 18 years of age or older whose primary place of residence is within the neighborhood planning unit or any corporation, organization, institution, or agency which owns property or has a place of business or profession within the NPU. Each resident may hold office in only one NPU. Each resident, meaning any person who resides within the NPU or any corporation, organization, institution, or agency which owns property or has a place of business or profession, shall have one vote and shall have the right to exercise that vote on all issues which come before the NPU, provided that an NPU may adopt bylaws calling for representative voting, as long as the adoption and revision of such bylaws is by vote open to all such residents without attendance requirements, dues payments, or any other limitation. I am, as you can see, copying and pasting this into the chat right now because it answered, I think, 4 different questions that have come up tonight. And I thought it was in the presentation. I see now that it's not, but that is the section of code. And I did give you the link earlier so you can read it at your leisure, but that is the section of code that I think answers some of the questions that have come out. As it relates to NPUE, you will see in that copy paste that I just gave you that NPUs have the right to have representative voting. We currently have 3 NPUs in the city of Atlanta that use representative voting. Can anybody guess what one of those 3 is? Say it with me, y'all. Exactly, it's NPUE. So NPUs B, E, and N. B as in boy, E as in Edward, and N as in Nancy, all use representative voting. And what that, it is just a different way of managing business. It's not better, it's not worse, it's not good, it's not bad, it is just a different way. In fact, it is very similar to how government operates in general. You have people who represent a larger group of people because you can't quite expect for the larger group of people to, for example, I live in Council District 17. I made that up, of course. I can't expect for every resident of Council District 17 to go down to City Hall every other Monday to vote on these matters. So what we do in District 17 is we elect one person to go and speak for us. That's what some of these NPUs do. Some of the NPUs, instead of all of the members showing up at these meetings, they elect people or select people who will represent their neighborhood. So in E, for example, E is easier because I know a lot of the neighborhoods there. So in E, you've got your representative from Midtown, you've got your representative from Home Park, your representative from Ansley Park, your representative from, I can't think of some of the other ones right now. Oh, Georgia Tech, Atlantic Station, etc. And these people are the people who vote representing the masses. So that is not the same as, and I think it's important to clarify that because I would not want for other folks who don't belong to a representative NPU to think that these folks are being mistreated because they don't get to make motions. No, you don't get to make motions because that's not how your NPU operates. Your NPU is representative. Okay, I just want to make sure that that's clear. Did I explain that clearly? Are there questions about representative NPUs? And I know Mr. Irvin from NPU-Y, not to be confused with E, has a question. Mr. Irvin?
Yes, sorry for my pardon. Outside it's cold, but so my question is about what you were talking about with the parliamentary class for the parliamentary procedures class. I thought I was under the understanding that you had to hold at least an officer's position to be able to attend that class. Are you saying that you don't have to hold an officer's position to be able to attend that class?
Yes, I am saying that no, you do not have to hold an officer's position to attend that class. The vast majority of our classes are open to all Atlanta residents and City of Atlanta employees. We have a few classes that are limited in size, meaning we have a contract with an outside course provider, and that contract doesn't allow us to have more than 20 people or more than 25 people. In those cases, we'll have a limited course class size, so we don't let just any and everybody in. And then we have one class, I think, that is for a specific audience, but all of our other classes are open to all City of Atlanta residents and City of Atlanta employees.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. And if that wasn't clear, the parliamentary procedures classes, all of them are open to all City of Atlanta employees and residents. All right, Ms. Chisholm and then Ms. Amati. Where'd Ms. Chisholm go? She changed her mind. Okay, Ms. Amati.
Oh, yes. I had a follow-up question about the representative voting. I am, of course, a part of NPUE, but I think this is just in general. So with the NPUEs that are part of representative voting or have that. So I don't stay in an area that has a neighborhood association. So I kind of feel excluded. I'm thinking that may be something to bring up during that bylaws time period where I could say, hey, I'm a resident who doesn't fall into any particular neighborhood association, and I feel like I'm not able to, it's like a little strip. I went and looked, I was like, which neighborhood is, and I don't think where I stay off of Peachtree, 2285, I don't think it doesn't, I think Brookwood, they speak on our behalf, but it doesn't fall under their per se, it's not in their jurisdiction. But so I was just thinking through what we spoke about. I'm thinking maybe just bringing this issue up during that bylaws time would be a way to address that lack of representation for residents like me who are not under a civic organization, but want to have a voice in the NPU.
So, sorry, I'm actually looking that up. Daniel, can you look that up for me, please? Or did you already?
I'm ready to look it up, but I would like the address, Miss Amati, if you could.
Hold on, let her send it to you privately, please.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my email in the chat. If you can just email me your address and then I'll look it up and respond to you.
Okay.
I just put the Atlanta GIS link in the chat that has, where you can look up any address and it'll tell you your NPU, your civic association, city council, all that stuff.
I think I came across this, but I double checked. But I still email you, Daniel. So maybe another set of eyes would be would help.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, was there anyone else with the hand raised? No, okay. All right. Okay, y'all, last part of this class. Let's get it. Uh-oh, did I close the? No, I didn't. So why isn't it opening? Okay. All right, thank you all for your patience. I believe you can see my screen now. Okay, so NPU University, which you all know a little bit about because you are here. We established NPU University in 2019 to provide training and education that residents need to make valuable contributions to the development of their communities and produce more equitable outcomes for neighborhoods. It is not often that I'm very quick to brag on my team. It's not very often that I brag on myself, but I will say that this program is probably the one thing that I am most proud of accomplishing at the City of Atlanta. It did not take me, thank you. It didn't take very long in this role for me to realize that there were some pretty big opportunities to strengthen the neighborhoods and to strengthen the NPUs and the system overall with education. I found that so many people were not doing what they could be doing, what they wanted to do and couldn't do. And it was almost entirely because of a lack of knowledge, just not realizing that they could, not realizing what they were able to do and what questions to ask, even how to vet applications, what to look for. Sometimes you put an application in an NPU chairperson's hand and they don't even know what questions to ask or what to look for, what to do. And then you see other NPUs that are asking questions that you can tell the applicant wasn't prepared to even answer or didn't expect to get such a question. I want that kind of power to be found all over our city, from north to south and west to east, in every single one of the 25 NPUs. I want each of them to be strengthened and to be empowered. And so we created NPU University in 2019 with just 16 classes. Today, as I pointed out, we have 40 classes. I'm hoping that we cut that down a little bit for next year, because we do have a one-person operation running NPU University. It's a lot of work for one person to do, but it's been really helpful, and we get a lot of good feedback from all of you. As you can see, 98% positive feedback, which is really helpful. This year, we launched our Citizen Planner Certificate Program, and we have 4 different tracks. We separated separated our classes into 4 tracks. We have the community leadership track, we have the planning track, the legislative and civic participation track, that's the class that you're in right now, is in that track. And then we've got neighborhood development, and I think there's a class next week, I think, or this week or something like that on
November 30th. I'm sorry, I was muted.
November 30th, okay. That's the Density Matters class, right? Okay, good. Yeah. So yeah, these classes have been very, very well attended. We have an average of 48 people in each class, which really says a lot, considering some of our classes, like I said earlier, has a maximum of 20 or 25. We can't go over that number. And even with that being the case, we still have an average of about 48 people per class. And that does not include the downloads, the people who watch it after the class is over, who will watch it either on YouTube or on Facebook. And last but not least, outreach and engagement. So we launched our Participate program, hoping to increase NPU participation and promote neighborhood empowerment by engaging residents that are not currently involved in their community. We do once a month, we have corner conversations. We are also working on a renter engagement strategy. We set up tables at neighborhood festivals. We just did one a week or two ago, I think at the Chomp and Stomp, Cabbagetown Chomp and Stomp, I think is the most recent one we did, but we've done Adair Park Porches and Pies and a couple of others that I can't think of, right? Reynoldstown Wheelbarrow Festival and a couple of other festivals that we've done as well. If you've got one coming up in your neighborhood, let us know. We'd be happy to set a table up out there and encourage your neighbors to participate. We also conducted this year for the first time a quarterly neighborhood presidents summit. All of the neighborhood association and civic association presidents were invited to these quarterly summits to talk about some of the matters that are important to them, to share with us what some of their concerns are, what the issues in their neighborhoods are, what opportunities there are for the city to support their goals and their efforts, etc. We're also working on a neighborhood pride tournament and of course on using social media to garner more participation. We also began efforts to promote collaboration between neighborhood organizations and business organizations, both of which are represented within the NPU system. We've had, I think, 3 or maybe 4 of these sessions with the business orgs and DCP or Department of City Planning representatives. We have a community impact grant that was created in 2011 under former Mayor Kasim Reed. Our CIG program, we actually enhanced it in 2019 and named it Community Impact Grant Program. This program awards funds to NPUs for beautification projects, outreach, community events, senior services, marketing, operational expenses, and organizational startups. In FY22, we awarded over $110,000 in funding to 16 NPUs. And, oh, well, let me take questions before we go into, well, no, may as well. We've got 2 classes coming up. This is Samantha's part. But we have on Wednesday, November 30th at 6 o'clock, our Density Matters and Neighborhood Revitalization class. This class is really, it's a partnership with Invest Atlanta, and it's a great conversation around how neighborhoods are built, how neighborhoods are revitalized. People in, particularly those in disinvested neighborhoods, such as my own, often say, we need grocery stores, we need a bank, we need a pharmacy, without quite understanding what it takes to bring or to attract grocery stores or to attract pharmacies or banks, et cetera. Density matters. And so the conversation is around density. It is not a political discussion on promoting or encouraging more density or anything like that. It's just helping residents to understand what goes into attracting investment into communities. And what it affects, actually, what it affects also, because the city does have a citywide conversation, in fact, a nationwide conversation around housing affordability. And density is certainly relevant to that discussion as well. On Saturday, December 10th, we have, this is another one of those limited classes. It is not first come, first serve. Our limited classes are never first come, first serve. Those are the ones that only have room for 20 people or maybe 25 people. It's a really cool class. It's the Urban Plan Academy for Community Leaders in partnership with the Urban Land Institute, or ULI. And in this class, it's a very hands-on workshop class where you will build a community, you will build an actual neighborhood using Legos, I think, and fun stuff. But it really does cover all of the principles around planning communities. So good stuff there. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and take any questions that may have arisen from those last few sections of the presentation. And I'm gonna plug my laptop in because the battery is low. Miss Rita?
All right, good evening. My arm was getting a little tired there. So I wanted to ask two questions. First question, how can we best engage our representatives, community representatives, like our commissioners or our council people, what have you? How can we best engage them? Next question, I've heard a lot of, NPUR, by the way, not to say that that's anything special in comparison, but NPUR. So how can, well, I asked that question. The meeting, in person, not in person whatsoever, I've had a lot of conversation within the community that said, oh, well, the mayor said we had to, and why aren't we? So if you would just address the question on, and I believe I know the answer to it, does the mayor or anyone else dictate how the NPUR meetings are conducted, whether they're in person or whether they're virtual only, or whether they're hybrid? And you
No.
look a little confused.
I'm not confused. I'm sorry. I'm not confused. The answer is no. The mayor doesn't dictate how NPUs meet, except that the code dictates that they have to be open to the public, that the meetings have to be open to the public. That is it. Outside of that, there are no other codified requirements around how and when NPUs meet. Right now, 21, Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong, 21 NPUs are meeting fully virtual and 4 NPUs are meeting hybrid. Thank you, Daniel. So we have 4 that are meeting hybrid. We have 21 that are meeting fully virtual, and that is up to the NPU completely. We don't encourage or discourage how NPUs meet. Does that
Right.
answer, Rita?
That answered the one, and the first question I had was on just any best practices or any advice on engaging your council members, city representatives, any of them to participate within your meeting. Just any type of best practices that you could offer. Nothing more than that. And I know we can't, do anything more than, show them a little love, whatever it is. But what are your thoughts?
I would actually turn that question over to the class and see if there's anybody that wants to take a stab at answering that for your neighbor.
Anybody?
Listen, you're not getting me in no hot water on a Tuesday night.
What was the
Say the question again? Say the question again.
The question is, do you have any advice or best practices on how to engage your council member in your NPU?
Invite them
Email
to the
them.
meeting.
Yeah. Invite them to the meeting, email them, go to committee meetings at City Hall.
All right, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Miss Rita. Sorry, I couldn't help more than that. Mr. Peterson?
Ms. LaRue, thank you. You've done a great job. I have just one last question. How do you define, or how does the code define the meetings are open to the public? Because as you know, I'm sure, all meetings are not conducted, whether they're virtual or the ones that are virtual are not conducted the same way. Some are done, like I'm in M, and M is a Zoom, and anybody can speak up, raise their hand and talk. Others are done as a webinar. And so it's open, but it's not really open. You can't see who's there, you can't speak. And some of the others. So how do you define open to the public? Or how does the code define open to the public?
That's a good question. I don't know that the code defines open to the public. And I mean that literally. I don't know if there's a section of the code that gives a definition for open to the public, but I will look. How I personally, the standard that I hold an NPU to is, can any member of the public attend this meeting? That's what open to the public means for me. Could any member of the public attend this meeting? Attend meaning sit in a seat and be in the room.
But if you can attend but not participate, is it really open to the public?
Yes, it is still open to the public in that it's, and we're talking my take on this, okay? So I'll look at the code later on and make sure that I'm right, but I'm telling you what my position on it is.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
If this were a council meeting, because council meetings are also required to be open to the public. And I assume all of us are residents and therefore taxpayers of the city of Atlanta, and the council meetings must be open to the public, which means we have to be allowed to attend those meetings, but we don't have to be allowed to speak in those meetings except.
Yes, you do. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Sorry. Go ahead.
Except for during public comment. But if they are having a discussion, and by the way, the code determines what the public comment period looks like too. But if they are having a discussion and I want to chime in on it, I don't get to just chime in on the discussion, but I do have a right to be in the room. I do have a right to be in the room. So for me, a meeting that's open to the public means that you have a right to be in the room. We recently, and some of you may know this, we recently produced a set of best practices in conjunction with the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board. We worked together to produce some best practices. In the best practices, we encourage NPUs to include a public comment period, especially those that have representative voting, so that people can actually speak in their meetings. But if we're talking about what's ideal, your representative is supposed to be speaking on your behalf, not on their own behalf. So if you live in ABC neighborhood, right? Let's say Peachtree neighborhood, because that's easy. Peachtree, Atlanta, get it? Okay, Peachtree neighborhood is where you live, and your NPU is representative, and they select or elect representatives of each neighborhood. The person that we voted to represent us in Peachtree neighborhood is supposed to be speaking on our behalf. So even though I don't get to participate in speaking during the debate on whatever the application is, I should have had the opportunity to talk to my representative and say, this is how the people on my block feel about this project. We are opposed to it, and we want to hear you defending our position at this upcoming meeting on Tuesday. And whoever that is that we elected from the Peachtree neighborhood should be speaking on our behalf and voting on our behalf too.
But some of the neighborhoods, what if that neighborhood required you to pay to become a member in order to be involved in the discussion and dialogue regarding an application?
Yeah, that's a
Just kidding.
I'm not stumped by it because it's not a new question. I've heard this question for many, many years. There are people that feel very strongly that neighborhood associations should not be able to charge dues. And
because then you have to, I'm gonna say, because then you have to pay in order to participate in the NPU process, is basically what you're having to do. Because you can't participate unless you participate with the neighborhood, and the neighborhood's requiring you to pay.
I strongly encourage people to change their bylaws.
Thank you. I'm not gonna take it up any more time.
Yeah, I wish I had more useful responses there, but I started this class at the beginning by saying that the NPUs are accountable to the members, not to DCP and not to me, but to the members. If there's something in your NPU that you don't like, you have to handle that at the NPU level with your fellow members by making a motion or by amending your bylaws. Mr. Mosley.
Yeah, one, I just wanted to say thanks for preparing this and setting all this up. I really do appreciate all that NPU University is able to do and like create as far as this. I think the question I have is, what is, like, as much as you have helped us in the city of Atlanta, what is something that you would hope for the people attending tonight to take away? Like, what is the one thing that you would like us to take away, or something that could help move NPU University forward?
Who sent you? That was a good question, Mr. Mosley. I feel like somebody sent you here. That was a good question.
I have not sent or paid, I promise.
Listen, I think I'm just in a really silly mood tonight. Please forgive me. But no, that was a really good question. And I wish I had time to prepare a good answer, because I feel like I could have a whole laundry list of stuff that I'd love for y'all to take away. One thing that I think would be especially helpful is understanding your power, like organizing with your neighbors to make your NPU what you believe your NPU should be. The one thing, I mean, there are lots of things that I would fix if I could fix things. And those that have been around for a while know that when I can fix things, I fix it. And when I can, I work on it. One of the things that I really would love to fix or see fixed is for NPUs to be empowered to not come to me or to planning when something needs to be fixed. And it's not because I don't want to do my job. I absolutely do that and some, for sure. But my hands are often tied. There's often not much that I can do because the NPUs are accountable to their members and not to planning and not to Leah. They are accountable to you. So the takeaway, I would love for y'all to take away from this, the knowledge that the NPU belongs to you. It's yours. You fix it. If we can help you, let us know how we can help you, but you got to fix what's broken or what doesn't reflect the body. Sometimes times change, things change, and as things change, the NPU may need to change as well, but y'all have to lead that. Miss Annie. And thank you for that question, Mr. Mosley. I appreciate that. That was
Yes, Miss LaRue.
Hey, how are you?
Did I have my hand up?
Yes, but if you didn't mean to, I can lower it for, oh, someone already did.
I did. I think I had it up for something else, but I'm good. You can continue.
Okay, Ms. Schlinger. You're on mute, Ms. Schlinger.
I just wanted to thank you very much. I think you're handling a situation in a very good way, because it's not your thing. We're just trying to find out information so we can become empowered to be able to do it within the NPU. However, our efforts to do so have been thwarted by changes that we thought we were setting ourselves up to be able to have a greater voice, yet the rules were changed underneath us to make it virtually impossible for folks who wanted to change the rules to have more empowerment to be able to do so. So we are here just trying to figure out how we can have a greater voice.
So I'll tell you one thing. I don't know who in the world organized y'all, but this is some organizing, and I have seen another NPU do that. Let me see if there's anybody here from that NPU before I call their name out. Yeah, they're here, but that's okay. NPUI. Y'all remember Y'all remember that class we had with NPUI and like 60 or 70 of them came out? But listen, as a matter of fact, this class is a result of NPUI. As a matter of fact, I just remembered that we added this class because of some issues stemming from NPUI. But I forgot all about that. Yeah, we actually created this class because of that. Whoever it was that organized y'all, because clearly somebody got on the phone or sent an email. It was like, the city is having this class, we need to go. Whoever that is, tell that person to call me, because I need to know how they did what they did so we can get other NPUs getting their folks on board as well. There are lots of, I mean, I'm a fighter at heart. It's just, it's kind of who I am. I'm an inside activist, I guess, activist on the inside. And I'm always interested in seeing people band together and rise up, if you will, to, I don't want to say fight the powers that be, but I will say I like to see people coming together and taking ownership of their community and saying, no, this is my neighborhood. And I actually care too much to just walk away and be like, y'all can have it, or I care too much to say it is what it is. No, I'm actually going to push back. I'm going to make motions until y'all get tired of me, or I'm going to read the bylaws, every single word of it. I'm going to look at other NPUs bylaws. I'm going to call the city and see what we can do to make a difference here and make a difference there, et cetera. Keep pushing. Keep pushing. We've got 3 minutes left, and if there are no other questions, Annie, I don't know if you raised your hand with a question or if you raised it by mistake, but I do want to point out that Samantha dropped a link to the Mr. Blasingame, what in the world? I ain't even gonna ask. I'm not even gonna ask. Samantha dropped a link to a survey. If y'all could please click on that link to complete the survey. I will never stop reminding. Huh?
I'm sorry, Lee, that was my grandson. I do have a question when you're finished, though.
Okay, 1 second, Miss Annie. I won't stop reminding you all in these classes that we operate on a budget. In 2019, I had no budget. My team had literally no budget at all. And in 2020, we were given a very modest budget. And this year, for the first time, FY23, we have not only did our modest budget double, but we also were added as a line item in the Department of City Planning. It makes a big difference, y'all, and it's because of the work that we've done over the last few years. We've proven our worth to the department, and we've proven our interest in doing everything that we can to serve the neighborhoods and the NPUs. That said, the only reason that I can continue to make a strong case for getting a budget and for getting staff to manage these programs is by showing data, metrics, numbers. So please do complete the survey. It takes maybe 60 seconds or so. Unless you have more that you want to say, you can, some of it is open-ended. So if you want to type more, you can, but you can just click the number, select the number, whether you liked it or didn't like it or whatever, and hit send. 60 seconds. In fact, by the time I finish this sentence, you could have already done the survey technically. So if you clicked on that link when Samantha first dropped it, and you listened to me ramble for the past 2 minutes, because remember I said we got 3 minutes left, you could have finished it by now. So please do complete the survey so that we can continue to show our department leadership and city leadership, and budget time is coming up in the next few months, so that we can show our city council that we are making a difference with the dollars that we get. Miss Annie?
I'm coming. There you go. I have one question for you. So, Ms. LaRue, I've pretty much taken every class I can get, and I go back to my NPU and share it. What do I say when they tell me that these are just suggestions and they're not telling you the truth?
Who's not telling you the truth?
Basically, me taking the classes with y'all, when I go back to use what I've learned to help us develop our NPU, that basically the city's giving me classes that's not telling me the truth. How do I work with that one?
Tell them to call me.
Okie dokie.
Thing I don't do, I'm serious. And if y'all, can we stop the recording now, Samantha, please? I need to let my bun down for a second.